How many times have you heard, become the best version of yourself, level up, manifest your dream life, upgrade your mindset, heal yourself, raise your vibration, become more evolved, become more awakened? Self-improvement is everywhere, like literally, on social media, on podcasts, on YouTube, in spirituality, in wellness culture, in business culture. And while growth, healing, and self-awareness are not inherently negative things, what if the endless pressure to improve yourself is actually keeping you trapped inside yourself? Because somewhere along the way, many people quietly began absorbing the belief that who they are right now is somehow incomplete. And once that belief takes root, people often begin endlessly reorganizing the shelves of the self, hoping the next version of themselves will finally feel complete. Another book, another workshop, another healing modality, another breakthrough, another future version of yourself to chase, another volume added to the inner library of who people believe they must become before they can finally feel enough. Hi souls, welcome back to Inner Library Alignment. I'm Rachel Golden, and together we transform the stories that no longer serve us so we can reveal our true nature through conscious authorship. And if conversations exploring awareness, subconscious patterns, healing modalities, and the deeper layers of human experience resonate with you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future chapters of Inner Library Alignment. This is a space where we explore awareness, subconscious patterns, and the deeper layers of human experience with curiosity, reflection, and openness. And today, we're exploring the self-improvement trap. One of the most interesting things about self-improvement culture is that it constantly promises arrival. If you just heal this, if you just overcome that, if you just become more disciplined, if you just awaken more, then peace, fulfillment, confidence, abundance, or happiness will finally arrive. And because of that, many people unconsciously begin living in psychological postponement. Life becomes centered around a future identity that people place on the highest shelf of their inner library. I'll finally feel enough when I heal more, when I become more successful, when I become more spiritual, when I stop struggling, when I finally feel complete. But the mind can endlessly create new conditions for worthiness. And this is why so many people become trapped in constant seeking, because eventually the search itself becomes another story cataloged within the inner library of who people believe they must become. Modern self-improvement culture is no longer focused only on growth. It is increasingly focused on optimization. People optimize their productivity, their morning routines, their exercise, their sleep, their diet, their finances, their relationships, their mindset. There is always something else to improve, optimize, master, or overcome. And none of these things are inherently wrong. Healthy habits can support well-being. Discipline can be valuable. Learning can expand perspective. Growth can create meaningful change. But somewhere along the way, many people begin to treat themselves like a never-ending project. There is always another flaw to eliminate, another weakness to overcome, another inefficiency to improve, another area of life requiring optimization. The shelves of the inner library becomes less about understanding and more about constant renovation. And eventually, life itself can become postponed. People stop experiencing their lives and begin managing themselves. Even rest becomes a strategy. Even hobbies become productivity tools. Even joy becomes something to measure. The question quietly shifts from how am I experiencing my life to how well am I performing my life? And because there is no finish line to optimization, the search can become endless. The mind continues creating new standards, new goals, new benchmarks, new versions of the person it believes it must become before fulfillment can finally arrive. And nowhere does this become more subtle than spirituality itself. This pattern becomes even more subtle in spirituality because many spiritual seekers genuinely begin searching for truth, peace, meaning, healing, or liberation, but eventually spirituality itself can quietly become another identity, another carefully curated section within the inner library of self-image. People begin trying to become more awakened, more conscious, more detached, more healed, more enlightened, and spirituality can slowly turn into another performance. People compare who meditates more, who is more aligned, who is more healed, who is more conscious, who appears more spiritually evolved. And ironically, even the search for awakening can become another form of psychological striving, because underneath it all can still be the belief, I will finally arrive somewhere. But non-duality points towards something radically different. Awareness is not a destination people eventually reach. The possibility that what people are searching for has always been present beneath every identity, fear, achievement, emotion, and search itself. This is why some call it the pathless path, because awareness is not something added to the shelves. It is the space in which the entire inner library is observed. And this leads us into something many people now call spiritual escapism. Spiritual escapism happens when spirituality becomes a way to avoid human experience rather than consciously participating in it. Instead of processing grief, someone bypasses it by being positive. Instead of addressing emotional wounds, someone labels everything low vibration. Instead of having difficult conversations, someone says, I'm protecting my energy. Instead of acknowledging fear, anger, insecurity, jealousy, or pain, someone tries to spiritually transcend being human altogether. And while spiritual practices can absolutely support awareness, spirituality can also become another subtle escape from unresolved conditioning, because awareness does not require pretending difficult emotions do not exist. Awareness allows human experience to be consciously observed without needing to suppress, deny, or spiritually decorate it. And perhaps one of the most difficult things to recognize is spiritual egoism, because the ego does not disappear simply because spirituality enters the picture. Sometimes the ego simply becomes spiritual. People unconsciously build identity around being more awakened, being more conscious, being the healer, being the teacher, being the spiritually evolved one. Even humility itself can become performance, and spiritual language can quietly become another story, carefully archived within the library of identity. I've transcended attachment. I'm beyond ego. I'm highly conscious. I'm more aligned. But awareness itself does not need superiority. Awareness does not compare itself. Awareness does not compete for spiritual status. Awareness does not need performance. Awareness simply observes. And this brings us to something important. The real purpose of modalities is not endless self-improvement. The real purpose of modalities is awareness. A modality can help reveal subconscious conditioning. A modality can help illuminate hidden narratives, emotional volumes, and forgotten stories stored within the inner library. A modality can help bring unconscious fears, beliefs, trauma, emotional reactions, or identities into conscious awareness. But awareness itself is not created by the modality. Awareness is what allows those experiences to be observed in the first place. And this changes the relationship entirely because modalities stop becoming destinations. They become mirrors that reflect the stories, conditioning, and subconscious volumes already shaping human experience. Not something people need to endlessly chase, but tools that can temporarily illuminate what was previously unconscious. And once awareness sees the pattern clearly, a different relationship to it becomes possible. Modern culture teaches people that fulfillment exists somewhere ahead of them. Another achievement, another healing breakthrough, another awakening, another version of themselves. But maybe awareness invites something much simpler. Presence. The possibility that life is not waiting in some future perfected identity. The possibility that what we call awareness has been present here all along, within this moment, within this experience, within this human life as it already is. And perhaps the deepest transformation is not becoming someone else. Perhaps it is becoming aware of the stories, conditioning, and fears and identities that have quietly organized the shelves of the inner library all along. And from that awareness, conscious authorship becomes possible. Before we close today, I want to leave you with a reflection. What parts of your life feel rooted in curiosity, awareness, or genuine expression? And what parts feel driven by pressure to finally become enough? What identities are carefully arranged on the shelves of your inner library because you feel pressured to maintain them? The healed version, the productive version, the spiritual version. Maybe it's the successful version. And if the constant striving paused for just a moment, what remains in the silence between those stories? Just sit with that. Not to force an answer, but simply just to notice. Maybe the deepest trap was never self-improvement itself. Maybe the deepest trap was believing there was always another volume, another identity, another chapter to add to the shelves before people could finally feel whole. And maybe awareness invites something different, the possibility that what people have been searching for has never been separate from awareness itself. Thank you, souls, for joining me for another chapter of Inner Library Alignment. If today's conversation reflected something back to you, stay curious about what it revealed. Until next time, keep exploring the stacks of your inner library.